Straight ahead on OC News, we'll get an update on the Pennsylvania high school stabbing spree that happened earlier today.
And graduation season quickly approaches. Seniors here at Cal State Fullerton are eager to pick up their graduation accessories.
And later, with summer only months away, we'll have details on how to get that perfect beach body. OC News starts right now. Welcome to OC News. I'm Jackie Roman.
And I'm Kristen Goodwillie. OC News is brought to you by the broadcast journalism students at Cal State Fullerton.
Pollock Library had an emergency evacuation today at approximately 3 p.m. OC News has reached out to the campus police department with no comment. Daily Titan editor-in-chief Ethan Hawk spoke with the library personnel who said it was a possible alarm misfire. A terrorizing scene at a Pennsylvania high school today. 20 students and one adult were injured when a student allegedly attacked his fellow classmates with 2 knives. The 16-year-old accused attacker has been charged as an adult.
It all happened in Murraysville, east of Pittsburgh. Just as the school day was getting started, many of the stab wounds were so deep that teachers were using students' hoodies as tourniquets. CNN's Chris Welch has more on the story.
We've got multiple victims here. We need ambulances here as soon as possible.
A mass stabbing at Franklin Regional Senior High School in suburban Pennsylvania has left at least 19 students and 1 adult injured, some with life-threatening wounds. The attack occurred shortly after 7 a.m. Eastern Time, before classes were scheduled to start.
I saw people running and screaming and crying, so I thought something has to be wrong.
The suspect, a 16-year-old male sophomore at the school, was handcuffed by a resource officer and later taken into police custody. Officials say the school's principal was also involved in the student's apprehension.
There was a school principal who actually had contact with the juvenile and was able to lead to him being put in custody.
During the attack, someone pulled the school's fire alarm, which officials say helped evacuate the building.
We saw a chaotic scene outside with people running everywhere. So yes, the fire alarm being pulled probably assisted with evacuating the school, and that was a good thing that was done.
Investigators are now piecing together exactly what happened and what could have caused this student to allegedly attack his classmates. For the students and families in this community, the focus turns to healing, both physical and emotional wounds. In Murraysville, Pennsylvania, I'm Chris Welch reporting.
About 10,000 people, including the President and First Lady, will attend a memorial in Texas today. The memorial is to honor the victims of last week's deadly shooting rampage. Polo Sandoval has more from Fort Hood.
President Obama and the First Lady are in Fort Hood, Texas today. They're paying their respects to the victims of last week's deadly shootings. 4 people are still recovering in the hospital. 1 was released just today.
I think the president is as heartbroken by this event as he has been on each occasion that something like this has happened in the country, and where he has traveled to participate in ceremonies or services that commemorate those lost.
The criminal investigation is moving forward. The Army says an argument involving Lopez might have triggered the shooting.
At this point in the investigation, we can confirm that the alleged shooter, Specialist Ivan Lopez, was involved in a verbal altercation concerning his request for leave and the processing of that request at his unit's administrative office.
A senior U.S. official familiar with the investigation says Lopez had recently asked for a transfer, claiming he was being taunted and picked on by soldiers in his unit. The Army now reviewing Lopez's interactions with fellow soldiers and his mental health history. 3 people are still recovering in the hospital. This is the president's second solemn visit to Fort Hood. He honored the victims of Army Major Nidal Hassan's 2009 shooting rampage.
I recently got back from a medical mission in Guatemala and had the opportunity to compare the medical conditions of Guatemala to United States. When we think of hospitals in the U.S., we think of spot-clean, cold facilities where one doesn't need to fear the water or electricity going out during a surgery. In Guatemala, this isn't the case. The doctors and nurses here at Refuge International specialize in making the best of their outdated equipment and cramped environment.
I think it takes a sense of humor to cope with some of the, well, some of the tragedies that you see, as well as just some of the challenges, some of the things you run out of, the episodes like the electricity going out, or something going wrong with the plumbing, or something like that, or just not having the equipment that you need, and you're just thinking, how is that possible that we don't have that?
And I look at that as a challenge. I'm afraid there are a lot of people who say, well, if you don't have this, you don't have that, I'm not interested in participating. I'm going to say, fine, you wouldn't have a good time. But a lot of people, I think, enjoy the MacGyver challenge, if you will, and figuring out how to make do.
Attitude is a necessity here, where technicians are even hired on to fix and make up their own equipment. They repair surgery lights and even took crutches for a 6-foot man and cut them down to work for a small child. They have to make do with what they have, with the techniques that would never be seen in the United States.
Yeah, it was a headache. Everything went wrong yesterday. It was just so freaking frustrating. But yet at the end of the whole thing, we have brought relief. You know, we have brought relief to these people. This person who had gallstones for 15 years or however many years, we brought relief to that person.
Though there are setbacks in the technology and a lack of equipment, the people of Refuge International successfully operate on and help the people of Guatemala. From San Raimundo, I'm Kristen Goodwillie reporting.
Organizing and leading these really incredible journalism classes to countries all over the world for several years. Trips in the past have included Cambodia and Vietnam, and the overriding comment that I seem to hear from everyone who has gone on these trips is how valuable and memorable the journey is, and I can definitely attest to that. So Professor Brody, thank you for joining us and taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, Megan, it's a pleasure to be with you and Kristen today, especially since we had such an inspirational trip in Guatemala.
Yeah, great, awesome. So the first question I have for you is kind of talking about the beginning of things. How did this program get started? How long ago did you start organizing these trips?
We've been going on, the International Journalism class was established about 5 years ago with a trip to Vietnam. We've gone to Vietnam, Cambodia, and Guatemala, all on medical missions where the students, participate in the mission, they learn compassion, they see the conditions in third world countries, and they serve as a communications team for the mission itself, producing stories, writing stories, and shooting videos and photography about what goes on there.
Awesome. So, as I know, it's a very competitive class to try to get into. There's tons of applicants. How do you decide who gets to come on these crazy journeys?
The department looks for two characteristics in our students. They have to be excellent students, excellent journalists, and they also have to be willing to subject themselves to very harsh conditions. Since you were there and since Kristen was there, you both well know that it was hot, the temperature reached the high 90s, the humidity was in the 90% range, we slept under mosquito nets, we had to take numerous shots before we went there. We can't have anyone who's a prima donna who expects to stay in the Hilton Hotel. And one night, we slept under a thatched roof inside of netting. We were subject to conditions where we may have experienced hookworms, things like that. It's not for people who want to live like at home or stay at the Ritz-Carlton.
Definitely.
Yes.
All the girls were without makeup and without our hair products, so that was definitely a different environment, but got to do what you got to do. It was a good experience.
Well, you're journalists. You're learning how to be foreign correspondents.
So I know you and your wife have the definite travel bug, so I'm sure all these countries that you look at look like amazing places to do the next trip, but what are some of the factors specifically you look at when choosing the destination of the class?
First of all, let me say so there's no confusion. My wife is a critical care nurse. She's gone on 12 overseas medical missions. She was chosen by the Navy to serve after the Haitian earthquake. She returned to Haiti like a week after we were married to establish a nursing program in a new hospital in Haiti. So she goes on overseas missions, and we just happen to, have the same similar interests in serving, the underdeveloped world and helping people. So we look for teams that are willing to provide surgical, medical, and dental needs to the people of the world, and that's basically how I choose them.
Okay, so it's kind of less about the actual country and more about the programs that are offered there that you can take the kids on?
Yes, exactly. We want to make sure that it's a program that's going to serve the needs of the people. And we were with Refuge International this year, and you could see that they performed numerous surgeries. We took care of a lot of medical needs, and many children had their teeth fixed.
Yeah, we saw a lot go on.
Yes.
So we, I feel, got pretty lucky with the living conditions in Guatemala. I was expecting a lot worse, and it got very rural, tested our boundaries a little bit, but I feel like we were lucky. How do the conditions that we experienced in Guatemala compare to the conditions of some of the other countries that you visited on these trips?
Well, I think the hotels are a lot nicer in Guatemala than in Cambodia, although, we can definitely say that, as far as the toilet facilities went, you couldn't flush any paper down the toilet. That was probably unusual to someone who grew up in America, that you had to put your waste, in a basket next to the toilet. This is what I'm saying. You can't have a prima donna, going on a trip like this, because someone like that would probably find it, revolting.
Yeah. Was there anything that happened on the trip that kind of made you feel nervous, or this isn't kind of what I planned and you had to think quick?
No, I wasn't nervous at all. I'm a world traveler. I know that we took a plane ride in a small plane. It had about 16 seats in it. It was a prop plane. It was noisy. It was shaky. We flew over the jungles of Guatemala, but I was, satisfied with it. I know some of the students were a little nervous because they'd never been in a plane that small.
Yeah, I definitely saw you kicking back at the front of the plane, your feet in the
what were you
cockpit.
doing?
It was such I was enjoying myself.
Were you
I was
white-knuckled?
calm. I know some of the other people on the trip were a little nervous,
They're
but
praying?
we got
Okay.
back fine.
Okay.
Do you have any hints about where you're thinking of taking the next trip?
Well, we're looking at India, we're looking at Africa. We can return to Guatemala, Vietnam, or Cambodia anytime because the agencies we've gone with are really appreciative of our work.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I loved hearing your take on everything and the background of how this amazing trip was planned, and thank you for all of it.
You're very welcome.
So our class spent the first few days of our trip at a medical mission hosted by an organization called Refuge International. I got the chance to know Deb Bell, who is the founder and president of Refuge. Take a look. I'm in the jungles of Sarstoon, Guatemala, sitting on the ledge of a medical clinic that president of Refuge International, Deborah Bell, helped create. The halls were empty in the clinic in Sarstoon, Guatemala. The day was ending, and Deb Bell was winding down from a long day of seeing patients. Deb has been a nurse practitioner for 15 years, and after studying in San Antonio and Texas Tech, she wouldn't have guessed she'd work in the impoverished rural waterfront village of Sarstoon.
Sometimes we drive through Guatemala and I think, Lord, why didn't you call us to someplace closer? It's hard to get here.
The only way to reach Sarstoon is a 2-hour boat ride. The only way to travel anywhere in the village is by boat. It's difficult to reach, but there's a reason the clinic was placed there.
Well, actually, it was a missionary in Belize that was trying to do some work over here, and he came and contacted us and said it was the worst looking area that he'd seen in Central America in terms of what they had and what they didn't have. But certainly it's, we've been able to make a difference. Hopefully without imposing our values on theirs.
One of the differences Deb helped facilitate was the construction and organization of several schools around Sarstoon. Deb helped staff the faculty and has developed relationships with the students who benefit from the education. While visiting, Deb drops off school supplies for each classroom and albendazole, a pill that rids each child of worms.
So we worm everybody we see. But as far as the massive deworming, the first 1 million doses we did probably in 2008.
The orange-colored, orange-flavored chewable tablet rids each child in Sarstoon of worms, a parasite that mostly every child in the village suffers from. But building schools and deworming villages isn't all Deb Bell does. She also spearheaded a water purifying project targeting several villages around Sarstoon.
All of Sarstoon, San Juan, Rosario, Blue Creek.
All of the affected villages now have access to faucets that dispense as much clean water as they can carry. Deb Bell has spent years of effort and dedication to these projects and these people, and it may make some wonder why.
I don't know if I can explain it, but there's a sense of I've done something with my life more than, buy a new pair of shoes. I've, in some way, my existence has made a small difference in somebody's life some way, somehow.
Deb Bell has many projects in the works for Sarstoon and surrounding villages, on top of building relationships and treating patients at the medical clinic. It may be her vision, but she certainly doesn't take all of the credit.
It's not me, it's, everybody. It's not, something I've done in particular, because I couldn't do what I do if Anna didn't do what she did, if all the volunteers didn't do what they did, if we didn't get all the supplies that we get, if everybody else didn't do things.
Some people may look at everything Deb Bell has accomplished and be satisfied. Deb Bell, however, sees it differently.
I can look back and see that we have done a lot of things, but really what I see is how much more needs to be done.
Deborah Bell has been the leader of many projects to help the people of Guatemala, but it seems as though she's just getting started. From Sarstoon, Guatemala, I'm Meg Tragan reporting.
The weather here in Southern California is quite warm compared to the rainy, cool temperatures we had last week. Our very own Angeline Serrano has your weather forecast.
Hey guys, so it's too bad spring break wasn't this week because we've been experiencing some beautiful sunny weather. The warmer temperatures are just a taste of what's to come this summer, and today's wonderful weather was about 90 degrees, and I got to enjoy that wonderful weather at the Cal State Fullerton Becker Amphitheater with the Wednesday concert, so that was really fun. So today's sunset is at 7:18 p.m. and the weather will cool down to about 57 degrees. And as for the rest of the week, it'll start to cool down a bit. It'll start to cool down to about high 80s and then down to the 70s. And then for the national forecast, we have cooler temperatures throughout the region tonight. The southwest regions are in their high 50s and low 60s, while the northeast is experiencing colder temperatures tonight at around 30 degrees and as low as 14 degrees in Caribou. And San Francisco has 50 degrees tonight, Seattle's 41, New York is at 39 degrees, and Chicago is at 48. And that's the weather for this week. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Angeline. Coming up after the break, we'll have an update on Cal State Fullerton baseball and how they've had 3 straight wins in the past week.
And how one life-saving home device now has Wi-Fi. Also, find out what you can do with a 3D printer. Stay tuned.
Titan TV is a student-operated facility maintained by students.
It's on the Cal State Fullerton campus, and it's a great opportunity for Cal State Fullerton students to get hands-on experience directly in a studio environment.
Working with Titan TV puts me in this professional environment. Everyone here is really fun to work with, and everyone just gets along so well. I'm having a great time.
Let's flip it over to Jesse Gowally, who has the full update from the baseball diamond and more.
Thank you. Returning from their long road trip to Kansas, the Titans were certainly ready to get back on the baseball diamond and forget about their recent defeats to Wichita State. To recap, Thomas Eshelman and company handed the Shockers the lopsided loss in Game 1, but dropped 2 close games to end the series on a losing note. With Wichita State in the back mirror, the Titans were ready to start conference play this past weekend against Big West rival UC Davis. The Aggies from up north stole Game 1 in a battle of the pitching 3-1. Fullerton picked up the slack and ended their 3-game losing streak in taking the second game of the series. The Titans had to play scrappy to score some runs against the Aggies. It was all about the top of the batting order as they piled on almost all of the offense for Fullerton and sealed the game early in a 7-1 victory. With high hopes, they came back swinging to the fences again in Game 3. The team put together 3 extra base hits and closed out both the Aggies and the series with a 9-1 victory. The Titans weren't done there, as they went on to put a come-from-behind victory against UCLA later in the week. This past Tuesday, Miles Chamber picked up his 2nd win of the season in relief, and J.D. Davis recorded his 4th save. The Titans look to improve their conference record this weekend and keep their winning streak alive against UC Santa Barbara. The Lady Titans of softball were on a scoring tear right before spring break, scoring 38 runs in 5 games against Bakersfield and Santa Barbara. Surrounded by the rich blue waters of the Pacific Ocean, the Titans faced off against conference foes Hawaii last weekend. The Titans kept up their scoring as they rallied for 22 runs in 3 games. In Game 1 of the series, Fullerton walked off in extra innings with 2 go-ahead runs, 5-3. Game 2 and 3 of the series would be played the next day as a doubleheader. Hawaii needed a walk-off win to win Game 2 of the series, 6-5, and Game 2 of the doubleheader was a different story as Fullerton upended Hawaii 12-3 in just 5 innings. An 11-run third inning sealed the victory for the Titans. Now the Titans look to continue their offensive dominance and keep up the winning as they host Big West Conference foes UC Riverside this weekend. And finally, busted bracket or not, this year's NC AA Men's Women's Championship tournament was historic. On the men's side of things, we saw the highest seeding of 2 programs, number 7 UConn and number 8 Kentucky. The Huskies beat the Wildcats, becoming the first 7 seed to win the national title. It was a similar story for women's basketball, as the Lady Huskies of UConn finished their season 40-0, a perfect season, and won their 9th national title. This was the program's 5th perfect season. The campus of UConn surely has had a lot to celebrate about since Monday night. And finally, if you haven't had enough recap of Titan sports, you can check out the FullertonTitans.com website for more recap and a full list of upcoming Fullerton games. That'll do it for me. Back to you guys.
A long day of running errands, a flight delay, or a concert or sporting event can leave smartphone users without an outlet to recharge. And that dwindling battery often leaves us seeing red. Karen Kaffa has tips to stay charged longer.
Restoring a smartphone battery to full charge can take as long as an hour, so smartphone users took notice when an Israeli startup called StoreDot recently posted a YouTube video with a prototype for technology that would charge a zapped mobile phone battery in a mere 30 seconds. The company says it'll be about 2 years before they'll get a product on the market, so until then, here are some tips smartphone users can keep in mind to save battery life. Adjust settings so the phone goes into standby mode or status after a minute or 2 rather than 10 or 15, and lower the brightness of the phone's display and disable the auto brightness feature. Location-based apps can also drain a battery quickly. Look for the GPS icon in the upper corner of the phone's screen and disable location services if you're trying to save juice. Also disable automatic downloads of apps and music and close those apps when not using them so they don't run in the background. And if you're one of those people who knows they'll frequently go a long time between charges, invest in a battery case for your phone to always have backup. For Consumer Watch, I'm Karen Kaffa.
Now we're going to toss it to Jose Campos, our techie, who knows everything about technology trends.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure you all had a great spring break around family or friends, but of course there is nothing better than our technology segment here in OC News. So today I'll be sharing with you about some of the latest items that we have in technology, and let's begin with 3D printing. So when you think about this type of printing, you may imagine that you need the special glasses to see the actual results, but this is actually something different because the way it works is that you place the piece of paper with the picture of the item you would like to copy, then you press the start button, and you don't have to do anything else because within a few minutes your copy will come out just as a real life item that you can use anywhere in the world. So for example, I have this picture here of an airplane, and you can have a better picture here on the screen. And I would just place it on the printer, and the result would be just another airplane that I can place in my collection. So this is a great idea for you to have at home. Place the paper, print it, and then 3D printing. This is what I would do. This is what 3D printing would do for you. So the next one we have is the smoke and carbon monoxide detector. I'm sure we're all familiar with this device that detects gas produced by heaters, fireplaces, and many types of appliances, including cooking devices. Now, if you're already wondering why is this included in the technology segment, the reason is because now you have the option of connecting this device through a Wi-Fi network so you can receive emergency notifications directly to your mobile device. And if you think that's not enough, This device also lets you silence the alarm with the wave of your hand. So basically, it recognizes the difference when there is a gas leak and when you are cooking. And the last one we have today is just to show you an example of how technology can make things happen. And it's a video of a man who works as a computer graphic animator for DreamWorks. So he created an action movie of his son doing different activities. So as you can see, he's doing things that we wouldn't normally see in real life. I hope you enjoyed the technology segment today. And if you're thinking about buying 3D printing, let us know, because everyone here in OC News will enjoy trying it out, and especially Jackie and Kristen. Back to you.
Coming up after the break, we'll hear about how to get that perfect beach body.
And we'll have your latest entertainment scoop coming up. Stay tuned.
Titan Radio is Cal State Fullerton's own radio station located in the basement of Pollock Library. Students can stop by and pick up an application during operating hours. Anyone who has a computer and internet can listen to us, www.titanradio.org. A lot of people who want to pursue TV and film usually start out in radio, so it's always a great opportunity.
Graduating seniors are waiting in line to get their must-have accessories for one of the proudest moments in their college career.
I'm Angeline Serrano here at the Titan Bookstore, where the second day of Grad Fest is undergoing right now. Students can come by to choose from 2 different packages to get their caps, gowns, tassels, and stoles. The event is here till 9 p.m. tonight, as well as tomorrow till 9 p.m. And if any of the students miss it, they can always go to the Irvine campus on April 17th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if students decide to be a part of the Alumni Association right over there, they can buy a 2-year membership for $25, where they'll also get a Tuffy tote bag and a few discounts on some of their graduation gear. Well, back to you guys in the studios.
Recent studies have shown an increase of weight gain in already overweight children.
And with summer on the way, getting beach ready is a must. Here's Rebecca Walzak with your health segment.
Thanks, guys. We all have kids in our lives, be it children of our own, siblings, and even neighbors. A new study looks at how excessive weight gain in children already overweight is impacting their health. Let's go to CNN's Melissa Rainey, who has more on the issue.
A new study says obesity rates in children appear to be holding steady, but the number of the most severely obese children in the U.S. has more than doubled since 1999, according to a study in the journal JAMA Pediatrics. The numbers climbed from less than 1% in the late 90s to a little more than 2% by 2012. Children are considered obese if they are above the 95th percentile in height and weight for their age. For example, a 10-year-old boy of average height, about 4.5 feet tall, is obese at 95 pounds. He is considered severely obese at 135 pounds. Obese children are more likely to have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes later in life, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They're also at risk for bone and joint problems, sleep apnea, and psychological problems due to poor self-esteem. Studies show obese children and adolescents are likely to remain obese as adults. Experts estimate an obese child will incur $12,000 to $19,000 more in healthcare costs over a lifetime than a child of a normal weight. For today's Health Minute, I'm Melissa Rainey.
A great way to get these kids active is to get active ourselves. And with graduation and summertime fast approaching, I'm sure we all want to be looking with those beach-ready bodies. The best way to maintain our physical health is to start now. A recent study found that staying fit when you're young and keeping active throughout your life can keep your mind in shape and into later days. That doesn't mean, however, you have to hit the gym 24/7. CNN's Holly Furfer has some tips and tricks for you to stay active anywhere.
Life can feel like a marathon, but you don't need to run one to stay in shape.
Physical fitness experts say walking, riding a bike, even a weekly Zumba class can keep you feeling your best. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the average person should try to get in at least 150 minutes of exercise a week. And even 10 minutes at a time is fine. Sure, it sounds like a lot, but if you add it up, it only comes to 2.5 hours a week. If you break up your routine in 10, 20, or 30-minute increments, the effects of physical activity will pay off. Best way to stay active is to engage in moderate or vigorous exercise. Add a little strength training 2 or more days a week, and your muscles and bones will thank you. And don't think that walking is not an activity. A brisk stroll for a half hour or more can do wonders for the body. The best thing, there's no need for fancy shoes or a gym membership. So get up, get out, and get moving. For today's Health Minute, I'm Holly Furfer.
That's going to do it for Health Today. I'll see you guys at the beach.
All right. Britain's young Prince George took on his first royal engagement in New Zealand, but he didn't have to greet any dignitaries, just a few Kiwi babies. CNN's royal correspondent Max Foster reports.
Prince George on a crawlabout, a specially convened playgroup at Government House in Wellington, New Zealand. It was an official public engagement, baby style. Guests included 10 local babies, born within weeks of George, who had parents from a cross-section of society, including an American dad in a same-sex relationship.
He's a lovely little boy. He was, yes, he's very intrepid.
George behaved impeccably, apart from one lapse in manners. He stole a plastic block from a little girl called Amelia, who screamed in protest, but it was quickly forgotten.
Happy little boy getting into everything, very mobile.
Little boy, he looked pretty big from what I could tell.
Yeah, okay.
He was one of the biggest there, was
yeah. He was one of the biggest there.
He's very strong, very mobile, very happy, very active. He's socialised very, very well.
A play date with destiny. George will one day be king, and these other little ones will be his subjects. But for now, he hasn't got a clue what's going on, and neither do they. It is perhaps the most normal he'll ever feel. Max Foster, CNN, Wellington, New Zealand.
A very shocking and devastating loss for WWE and wrestling fans occurred last night. Sarah Taraniran has your entertainment news.
Yes, the 54-year-old wrestler Ultimate Warrior passed away Tuesday night, just 3 days after getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. The Ultimate Warrior, whose real name was James Hellwig, began his WWE career in 1987 and rose to become one of the biggest stars in WWE history. The former WWE champion had a profound impact on the WWE superstars, divas, and personalities who found inspiration in the legend's spirit and intensity. The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and Triple H, along with many other wrestlers, have taken to Twitter to support Warrior, his family, and fans. His cause of death has not been disclosed. But on to some lighter news. Queen Bee, aka my girl Beyonce, posed topless on the cover of Out's Power issue. Dave Stewart has the details.
Beyonce is on the cover of the latest issue of Out magazine. Clad in a Marilyn Monroe-style wig, the pop diva bared almost everything for the photo shoot. In the story, she says her music is sexually liberating, not just for her, but for many of her fans. She also talks about her sexuality, feminism, and human rights. This is Bey's first magazine interview since quietly dropping her 5th album online last year.
Another risque magazine cover made headlines with the lovable Julia Louis-Dreyfus posing in her birthday suit with the text from the United States Constitution scrawled across her back. The 53-year-old 4-time Emmy winner looked absolutely stunning on the cover of the latest issue of Rolling Stone, which will be on newsstands Friday. Moving on, Christina Mutchler has your box office news.
At the movies this weekend, Captain America: The Winter Soldier was the big winner. The second installment of the superhero series brought in $96 million. Russell Crowe's controversial biblical movie Noah came in at number 2, and the sci-fi action flick Divergent was number 3. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Christina Mutchler.
And speaking of movies, the MTV Movie Awards are this Sunday at 9 p.m. Conan O'Brien is the host for the very first time. Eminem and Rihanna are the big time for performers for that night, so keep an eye out for that. All right, guys, that's all the entertainment news I have for now. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Sarah. So that's going to do it for us here at OC News. I'm Kristen Goodwillie.
And I'm Jackie Roman. We'll see you on the next edition of OC News.